Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Langdon Holbrook, and today I'll be presenting over profits over patients, the role of special interest groups and politicians in America in America's healthcare crisis. Um, so basically, what I'm going to be talking about is the role of special interest groups, politicians, and other lobbying bodies in the American healthcare system, and how it's really hurt the average American, the working class, the impoverished, those who are a lot less fortunate in America. I'm going to be talking about how it's affected them the most, and hopefully dive into some of the numbers so we can get some kind of concrete understanding of what's going on, and then most importantly, dive into what I think are some of the solutions and some of the best ways we can combat this issue in America. So the first thing let's go over is the numbers. I think this is um, a good background to get into. It'll give us the most concrete understanding of kind of what's happening and make it just a little bit more clear. So first, let's talk about the amount of uninsured Americans. In America, there's 27 million uninsured Americans, which of course is an incredible issue. Uh, the abundance of medical debt is absolutely ridiculous. It's $88 billion, unfortunately, America is also ranked the worst out of all developed countries in the world when it comes to healthcare and the ability to have good quality healthcare. And then what's really the saddest and I think most shocking fact is that over 45,000 Americans die every year because of improper healthcare or other issues with the system. And I'd like to point out that all of these numbers and statistics are from the Kaiser Family Foundation. And the next thing we'll talk about, I kind of want to get into who are the special interest groups, who are some of these people behind the issues that we're seeing in America, who has the biggest say per se in healthcare, and who is causing, I think, the blunt, the absolute like the biggest issues in America when it comes to this. First, let's talk about the pharmaceutical industry. Of course, they are always going to push for drugs and other things to be more and more expensive because they're trying to better their profit margins, which I think is kind of very understandable. The way that our healthcare is ran in America is very capitalistic and not very consumer friendly, I would say. It's definitely more for profit over people and profit margins over anything else. And let's talk about the health insurance lobby, the HIP. We'll get into it a little bit more, but of course, they put billions and billions of dollars every single year into lobbying what they want into the healthcare sector. The biggest issue right now is that unfortunately, um, the votes that we have as Americans are kind of being drowned out, and our say in the political landscape is being drowned out by these health insurance lobbies like AHIP because they have more money and they're able to fund politicians a lot more effectively than what the common American is. And the last thing I think we should talk about is the American Hospital Association. This is the association, kind of the union for all hospitals in America. And of course, hospitals have a special interest also when it comes to maximizing their profit margins and making sure that they're not really looking out for the consumer or the patient, more for themselves and more for their bottom dollar. And let's get into it even a little bit more. So, the healthcare industry every single year is the top lobbying sector. That is over the automotive sector, over food. That is over even military contracting. It is the largest by far and away lobbying sector in America. And of course, I've already talked about this. Donations are going to sway politicians. It's an unfortunate thing in America is that politicians need millions and millions of dollars every single year to run. And of course, they are going to be swayed, and how they vote on certain legislation is always going to be swayed on who's backing them the most, who's giving them the most money. And unfortunately, that is not always the voter, and I do not believe it always should be the voter, but that's just unfortunately how it is. And then $5.83 billion has been spent in the last 25 years on the lobbying of by the healthcare lobbies and trying to push what legislation they want. And that number was sourced for me by Political Pulse and their great article about the healthcare industry's lobbying spree and how kind of egregious they've been in the last 25 years or so. And let's get into another incredibly large issue, and I would say the largest issue: the impact on real people, the impact on the impoverished, less fortunate, and the working class in America. Um, over 100 hospitals um, in the past decade. Rural hospitals have been shut down. I know that doesn't sound like a lot, but I would kind of ask you to understand when you think about a hospital, especially in a rural area, think about how many people that hospital serves, how many people rely on those hospitals, and how many people's kind of life are dependent on those hospitals. So when you hear the number 100 of those rural hospitals across the nation have been shut down, think of the hundreds of thousands and even millions of people that are affected by that. Okay, understand that not everyone is close to a hospital in a city or an urban area. The rural hospital is the most convenient and most practical way for them to get their medication or their, see their doctors. But unfortunately, that is not always the case for a lot of these people, and they're forced now to go into the city or more urban areas to get the care that they need, which in many cases we can understand is incredibly life-threatening. Um, and then we could just get into some other things. Of course, people are going to skip their meds due to the cost. I will get into that just a little bit more. I'll give you a great example on the next slide. But all throughout America, we see people skip medication, not take the medication they're supposed to, and not take it in the proper way because the inflated numbers on medication. And that goes into the same thing as healthcare costs are a burden. Many people are unfortunately not able to get government assisted healthcare, and of course have to pay out of pocket for healthcare. And anybody that's doing that knows very much how of an incredible burden that is financially, economically, and just on yourself and on those around you. And all these numbers were sourced from Forbes, and of course Forbes does another great article that I read and got a lot of great numbers from how the American healthcare is failing its people. A great article by Forbes that kind of helped me give some of the numbers and go through a lot of these things. And then I just want to give a little bit of example of probably the biggest issue. We know there are a lot of diabetics in America, and I kind of want to give the example about insulin. Insulin, if you guys have ever heard of Martin Shkreli or maybe the company that he works for, but in the last decade or so, insulin prices have absolutely skyrocketed through the roof. And the reason this happened was because, well, one, there has been incredible lobbying against any of these pharmaceutical companies or brands being regulated. Um, for a very, very long time, these companies, it's getting better now, but for a really long time, these companies were not, they had no regulation on how they could price gouge their consumer. They could just keep making it go up and up and up as high as they wanted to create as much profit margin as they wanted. And in doing so, they completely neglected the consumer and neglected people that needed this, this medicine for, life-saving purposes. Because we all know um, how harmful diabetes and fatal diabetes can be if not treated with insulin. And another issue we have is the patent evergreening. So if you don't know what patent evergreening is the extension of patents over and over on a certain substance, mostly done in the pharmaceutical landscape. It is done to extend a patent over and over right when the patent is about to expire, and they do this so there can be no competitors and no one can make any generic versions of this, right? So for a long time insulin didn't have a generic version, and of course that cornered the market and made a slight monopoly, and was very fatal to many people and incredibly harmful to millions of Americans. And then let me just go into some what I think are some of the solutions and some of the ways we can change this as Americans. The first thing I would say is use your vote. Use your vote for people who care about the healthcare system and are trying to do better in America. Uh, but I think the biggest thing is we have to invest in public health infrastructure for all. I think the best thing that we can do is take a lot of money away from the defense budget and other things that are not always indicative of good for the common American, and instead put that into healthcare, and let's find different things that we can do to kind of help the common good in that way. Of course, I do believe in regulated prices. I believe in a government oversight on regulated prices for insulin and all other drugs, and on these pharmaceutical companies, so they cannot price gouge and cannot create these modern day monopolies that we're seeing. And then I would also like to see some sort of insurance for all. We have other European countries who haven't been able to do this. I know there are detractors from this, and I know there are issues and side effects of this, but I do think, as we call ourselves the greatest country in the world, that this should be something that we strive for, and that we should see healthcare as a human right. And then I truly do believe that no political lobbying should be allowed for something like healthcare. I think it is so serious, and I think it is such a human right and basic necessity for all that. I don't think any multimillionaire or billionaire companies or CEOs should have any say in healthcare for the common American or the common working person. And then lastly, I'll conclude it with a great quote that I think sums up this. Great, this is by Bernie Sanders. Whether you agree with his politics or not, I think is sort of irrelevant here. But I'll just go ahead and read this quote for you. Expose how dysfunctional and wasteful and deadly the system is. We need all of you to understand you're in a war here, taking on very special interest who couldn't care less whether people live or die. And to sum this up, it's that we all have to come together and understand, no matter where you are in the political landscape, religion, or any other thing like that, your race, background, ethnicity, that we all need to come together and fight for what's in the best interest of all of us, and that is a fair, affordable, um, and just healthcare system where no one gets left behind. People don't have to worry about where their medication is going to come from, whether they can pay hospital bills, or whether they're going to live and die dependent on if they have enough money. So that's my thoughts on the situation, and I hope you took some things from this presentation, and I thank you for your time.